I asked Julie to come because I really respect what she does. You know, when she's at home doing her thing, um, and she's got a wealth of knowledge in that areas, and then some too. I kind of know her only at this level a little bit, but I'm sure a lot of other stuff will be coming out too, right? Yeah. I mean, you can look. She's like Miss Dreadlock here, like with the dreads like that. Don't let that scare you.
It's easier that way.
It's all good. It's all good. But what I do know is that she, and this is where I think you was talking about, Jen, about making sure that anybody who come here is coming here to help take care of this place and contribute to the place, the space. And that's what Julie did over these past years that she's been here too. How long you been here, Julie?
On this island, 10 years.
Yeah, so like in these 10 years, you know, she bought her land, she started farming her land and doing her thing and really, you know, eating off her land, really. And that's like I was impressed when I saw that. So before I do anything else, I'd like to just introduce Julie. How do you say your last name? Latendres.
Latendres, yeah.
Latendres, and basically she's gonna share with you some knowledge and some wisdom and some manao. And if you have any questions or anything, kind of hold them until she's done and then fire away, please. Because what I want to happen here is I want interaction to happen. Because we just didn't do that right now, so we learn from that. Now we're going to bring that whole idea, we're going to interact with each other too. So it's kind of like welcome, Julie.
Thank you. So, Iopa said that you guys wanted to hear a little bit about homesteading, and I can talk about that all day, but I will. I brought a few things that we're going to be putting in the emu. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit. I've been, like I said, up there about 10 years. And I moved onto the land, and it was basically jungle. And when I first got there, my goals were to definitely be gentle on the land, rejuvenate the land, be gentle and very careful and intentional about how I lived on the land and worked the land. And so with all of these, I mean, when it was there before, it was ohia, and that was logged out, and then it was ranched, and then that was stopped, and then it grew into invasive species. And so it's got a lot of guava, what's some of the other ones, what we call the pruna rose, which is the tibicina, and the Coster's curse, which a lot of the invasive species that, you know, the birds eat some of the berries, but for the most part it pushes out the native species. So when I got there, I was like, okay, and I started tenderly, when you come in with a bulldozer or a D9, which a lot of people do out here, and you bulldoze and take the whole entire ecosystem down, even when it's invasive species, that creates like a collapse. And so you lose a lot of your, you know, microbiome in the soil, and you lose, you know, a lot of the insect population. And so you have basically death. So when I went onto the land, I took a little bit at a time, and I didn't want to, the ohia, they're very, they have the rapid ohia death, and so you have to be very tender, like around the roots, and not bring in, you know, machinery and things like that. So I wanted to be careful of the native ohia that was on the property already. So when I started digging into this just tangle of jungle and invasive species, it was just, you know, slow going at first. It was just a little bit at a time. And I did it mostly by hand. And, you know, I would take out a section and then I would put in a tree, because, you know, they just keep coming back. So you take out what you don't want there and you put in what you do want there, and you hope it takes over. I come from like a permaculture point of view, so playing succession, trying to speed up time and nature, and playing succession with replacing the invasive species with the plants that you do want there. One of the first things that I started putting in, a neighbor came over and gave me a little piece of kalo, and just came over, and it was just a little tiny piece when I first got there, and it was like that right there. And I always thought, you know, I'm never going to grow kalo. I'm going to grow, you know, this and this and this, and, you know, I'll leave kalo to Kanaka. That's, you know, that's theirs. And I thought, thought, well, okay, I'm going to stuck it in the ground. And it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew. And sometimes they grow to be, you know, huge. And you can feed an entire group this size with something like that. And I says, well, I guess I don't grow kalo. Kalo grows me. And I've learned a lot from all of these plants and all of these different varieties. These are all different varieties of kalo, this one included. And they all have different things that they like, and they have different personalities, and they have different flavors, and they have just different profiles altogether. And, you know, and people say, and I think that, and I don't know if Iopa took a break, but Jerry Kononui, Uncle Jerry, when asked which is the best kalo, his answer is the one in the Imeki in front of you. So it's the one that you have, that you grow, that you have the relationships with, that your neighbors bring over, that you prepare together, that you roast in the imu, and you share as community. So the best one is the one in front of you, and I think that's brilliant, of course. So the kalo we're going to be preparing and putting in the imu, I have breadfruit, or ulu we call it. These are really small. They can get big, small, different sizes, but these are the ones that the tree decided to not mature fully. And these can be eaten at all different points in their maturity. You can eat them when they're small. They're a little bit flavor like artichoke heart. As they get bigger and mature more, it's more like a potato. And then when they get full size, it's they get really soft and it's sweet. So you can have them at all different stages, and they have different flavor profiles. These are two different kinds of bananas. This is a red Cavendish, and I'm going to be putting these in the imu as well. I haven't put these in before, so I'm kind of excited that we all get to try these together. And these are red Cavendish, and these are called Saba. These both, as they mature, get sweeter, but they're often considered cooking bananas. So we're going to have those too. And part of the homesteading thing that I do is I work with whatever is right, available, plentiful. I do a lot of barter with my neighbors. I do a lot of canning, preserving, brining, pickling, all the different ways that you can preserve foods. And when I moved from Tennessee to Colorado to Utah to California to out here. And so as I moved, I learned a lot of different things about food preservation and how to take care of things and make them harvest go longer. Because sometimes you'll get, you know, a ton of food and then you won't have that for 6 months. And so if you want to preserve, you know, mangoes out of season and have those out of season, you know, preserves or things like that, which is really nice. And I have part of that is one of my goals in removing the invasive species and replanting with food plants was I learned really early, before I even got to Big Island. When I lived on Oahu, I got there and I, you know, urban homestead and had little gardens and things like that. And I just thought, oh, it's Hawaii, everything will grow. It's sunny, you know, it's beautiful, but anything will grow. And I learned really quickly that not everything would grow. And it was really humbling to realize that no, everything wouldn't grow. And so on went my journey into the local food and the local plants and what do we grow in the tropics and how to prepare it. I mean, I came from places where there was winter time, and so I had no idea how to breadfruit, or, you know, I knew one banana only before I moved out here. And it's just become a world of so many different things. And so I changed my thought process of, oh, I'm a failure as a farmer or a homesteader because I couldn't get certain things to grow. And what I did was I accepted the fact that people, you know, have been surviving on some of these foods for thousands and thousands of years. And, you know, Kanaka and the indigenous populations, you know, it's not a secret. And so it's like, you know, it's not me forcing my will on these plants. It's me listening to the indigenous wisdom and the land that we what grows, what wants to grow, what has sustained and nurtured these people for thousands of years. And so that's how I finally started feeding myself, was I let the plants do the talking. And the ones that wanted to grow were the ones that I grew. And that's basically it. And so in removing the invasive species and replanting things, it was really important to me in that process to look into canoe plants and what grew before, what did they bring with them, what came later, and that was, that was a journey of its own. And when I started planting a lot of the canoe plants on my place, I just started having food and medicine, and I put in avakui, which is the shampoo ginger, and ava, this is ava, and it's medicine, and kalo, and a lot of these things. I mean, it just began to feed me, and I have a teenager now, and it's just been a journey. It's been a lot of ups and downs. I also have poultry. I have chickens and ducks, and I have a turkey and guinea fowl, and I have goats, and a lot of fruit trees, and a lot of I learned to plant a lot of perennials. That was really important. Things that just continue to come back every year. I don't grow a lot of annual plants anymore, like lettuces or greens or anything like that. Not only because of the rat lungworm, which we have here. I don't know if you guys know anything about the rat lungworm, or if you were told about. So I don't eat a lot of raw things. The greens I grow are tropical greens or perennial tree crops. And that's been great to have. I have a tree that grows spinach. I go out and gather dinner, and I cook it, and then I go out, and it's still a tree. I don't have to harvest it. I don't have to till the soil. I don't have to do any of those things. I have all that production of fertilizer there from all those animals. I move them around under my fruit trees, and I kind of do a natural process of, if I want them to fertilize a tree, I'll feed them under it for a few days, and then move to the next tree. And so that saves me a lot of backbreaking work, money. When you talk about sustainability, being on the homestead, it's not sustainable if you're driving to Hilo twice a week to get, feed that comes from 4,000 miles away shipped in. So you have to find ways around, if you are true about being sustainable, you have to find ways around having to drive to Hilo and spend gas and, buy those products.
No, let me go ahead, keep on, and let me get into that a little bit.
Yeah. And so what I found on the homestead is, it's either, time, money, knowledge. You've got to balance this, thing that, especially when it comes to things like goats, which did not evolve in the rainforest. They have a heck of a time. They're sick a lot. They get parasites. Their feet are bad. They don't belong in the jungle. And I've learned that, well, maybe goats aren't the thing to have on a homestead in the jungle. Maybe if I lived on the west side, it would be perfect. But I have to adapt. I had a lot of chickens, now I have a lot of ducks. Those things change because I have to adapt on the land that I'm in. And the sustainability part is, if I'm not driving to Hilo and spending gas and buying, products that come from a whole different place here that's just not sustainable. So there's all of this food that was brought here for not only reforestation, but for fodder for the livestock that was also grown in. So I have to look at the invasive species. These are resources, the problem is the solution. So this is all fodder and food. So I get rid of invasive species by, I don't buy alfalfa pellets, I don't buy, hay and those things. But it does take either machinery or, the physical body, and the physical body also takes energy. So, and we have these foods. I mean, it's this circle of, we need the foods to have the energy to put back into the earth to give us the foods. It's just a continuous, wonderful cycle that I love being a part of. You just had something to say about sustainability.
Yeah, I like add into that too. So, first of all, everybody stand up. Cool, stand up. Stretch out a little bit, stretch out, like that. So, it's going to be interactive, it's going to be immersive. Yeah, move around, shake a leg, you know what I mean? Yeah, stand up. So, I'll like tell you why it's important that the homesteading is important. So, 2 years ago, we had COVID-19, right? COVID-19 was one of the reasons why we need to figure out how to be sustainable. The other thing too was in 2018, we had our lava flow here that came from the Volcano National Historic Park and came all the way down here, and it affected us negatively to the point where we were lacking in foods. Community had to engage, and so the purpose of the homesteading piece really lies into someday the boat's gonna run out of gas, the plane's gonna stop flying for whatever reason. You guys can sit down now. We're gonna have a disaster, some kind of tidal wave or hurricane that would stop anything from coming. We're only on a small island over here, so we're gonna stop all of these things from coming in, right? They say too, if we have a natural disaster, because I'm on the Emergency Disaster Relief Council, and we practice that. We work with civil defense and everything. They say that Hawaii Island, us here on this island, we only have 5 days of food if we would have our ports or our airplanes, shut down for some reason of hurricane or something like that. So that is why it's important for us to nurture the land so that the land can nurture us. Like I said earlier, the land can get along without us. We cannot get along without the land. Why? Because the land provides for us shelter, clothing, food, and so forth, right? So to me, what I'm hearing is a way of sustainability that takes a lot of work, and it is a lot of work. Trust me, it's a lot of work. It's easy to just take your credit card and go down Safeway and go just buy stuff. What stores you guys get in Indiana? Safeway, Walmart. Okay, so easy just to go do that. Now, they say that the story goes, if you teach one man how to fish, he can live for a long time. No, how the story goes. You guys know the story? And then if you teach him how to fish, what? So eat for a lifetime. There you go. Exactly what my kupuna said. Hands facing up. You lazy, you beggar, empty stomach. Hands facing down, you worker, full stomach. And that's where I think she stays. She's with this right now. So I just wanted to make that connection.
Well, for sure. The sustainability part, but just the health factor. I mean, the natural foods that grow from the land. And, the soil, just having that connection to the soil, the microbes in the soil and the trace elements and trace minerals and things in the soil have, this healthful effect on you that going to the store and dropping that credit card just don't have. So I've worked harder than I've ever worked, but I have no regrets being up there on the land. It is hard, but I can't imagine living another way at this point. It's a lot of work, but I would recommend, if you get opportunities, to either apprentice, or there's like woofer programs. I don't know if you've heard about that, or if any of you have farmers in the family or anything like that. But to spend time on the land, working with the land and the plants and the food, and become closer to your food and get that connection to your food, and it really makes a difference in how you see the land, I guess, how you see the land. So I don't have, if you guys have questions about homesteading or any of these plants I do have to put in the emu. Are you preparing food next?
Yep.
Okay, and do you have plans for that already? Or because I have some, I wanted to, this stuff is all going to go in the emu, but I wanted to try something with these cooking bananas.
By all means, we're going to try them. Okay, gang. I'm going to put the, what is not the copyright, but what you call that? The
trademark?
No, not the copyright, but when the patent. if this banana brings tears to your eyes tomorrow when we eat it, we did our job. Okay. All right. So we're gonna do this, and I said yes to her when she told me this. We're gonna put this banana in the imu and we're gonna cook it. I'm gonna add a few things to it too, maybe some butter or maybe some coconut milk or something.
Ginger leaf. I want to lay it. That was one of the things I wanted to
there
try.
you go. So she's got it all planned. We're gonna make it happen. And like I said, if it brings tears to your eyes, then blame me, right? But if it doesn't, then blame her.
Story of my life.
So go ahead. So I guess we're gonna end up cooking this. We're gonna cook the ulu.
Yep.
We're gonna cook the kalo, and all of this stuff came from her land right now, which we're growing over here, but it's not ready. But it's interesting how the reasons why we need to learn how to be sustainable here, and that's the intent that we wanna bring you. So the next time you go into Safeway and you bust out your credit card and you buy a new one fruit or something, you can say to yourself, shucks, maybe I could have grown this banana right here outside in my yard, right? And stuff like that, right? So that's why I think we brought this idea. So we're gonna open up to Q&A for a little bit. I wanna engage you a little bit on what you learned. So I'm gonna go around the room and maybe I'll pick on you first. Luke, number 2. Isaac number 2. Let's get Isaac 1, 2, right? Get Isaac 2 Isaacs. Okay, so Isaac, would you have just maybe we do this. If you got a question, ask it. But if you got a comment, please say it and share it and how it pertains to what you're doing and what you're learning in your class, in your school. Isaac.
How many people could live off of the food that you have at your?
Oh my gosh, I think about that actually pretty regularly when I walk around, because some of these things I stick in the ground and they start down here. So you can see where this is rotting away. It starts down here, planted here, and if I don't go and harvest it when it gets more or less ready, it'll start to rot, but it continues to grow. And so if I need to go out, 6 months, 8 months, a year and a half later and find food, it's still out there growing. I cut off the bottom part and all this is still good, right? So this particular variety holds in the ground really well. Some have to be harvested right away or they'll just start to rot. So I ask myself that question all the time, and the answer is I have no idea. There's a lot of food growing, and when I harvest something like this, I take the huli, which is the part that comes out and you replant. I take that, and if I don't have a bed prepared, I'll just stick them in wherever. That's that permaculture way, right? And it's so fertile up there, and I have enough what we call living mulch, aka weeds, that it keeps it protected, and so it just continues to grow. And so I mean, if I stop and take a snapshot, it would have to be just that snapshot. It's always changing. Different seasons offer different things, different layers of some small, some different. I don't have everything come ripe at once. I go out daily and see what's ripe, and then I go out and harvest kalo when I need some. But I also have, as far as staples go, I have ulu. I have like 4 of those trees, and they're big, and I have countless different varieties of kalo, and they're all over. I have cassava, and so everywhere I look, there's food growing. How long would it last? No idea. Hopefully, if I had people there that were hungry and needed to be there, we would never find out, because we would just, what we ate that day, we would turn around and replant, right? So it would be this continuous process.
I would say this too, you growing for your family, you and your family, and so you would be feeding your family first.
Yeah.
And when you get extras, that's when you share with others too, right?
Yeah.
In that point. Where's the other Isaac? Isaac, if you got any comments, questions, or what have you.
Do you have a specific way that you lay out like your garden, or do you just go around and?
It's wild. It looks like a jungle up there. People that have no idea will walk on. It just looks like it's a food forest. It looks like a jungle, and if you know the plants, you can pick them out and you see. I've got 6.25 acres total, but I have about 2/3 of that has been fenced off, and there's goats in it, and the rest of it, I carve out a little bit of jungle and put in a tree or a fruit plant, So it's been gradual. It doesn't look like anything big has happened because I'll clear a spot, put in a tree, and then a little bit later clear a spot, put in a tree. So it went from jungle to food forest, you know. Yeah.
On this side, yeah, Paulie.
I got a question.
Yep.
So, you travel from place to place, from state to state. When did you decide that you were going to be on Homestead? And when, like, was it, where was your best growing, or like, I would say obviously it's Hawaii because we have
Year-round
year
growing.
round, same weather all
Yeah.
year round. So, but that was the other question. Like, so when did you decide to homestead? Were you homesteading during all of those states? And where's the best homesteading you did?
Well, I grew up in Tennessee, and I grew up country, rural. I come from not farmers, from hunters and gatherers and foragers and fishers. So I've always had connection to the land and always knew where food come from. And so we always had wild food growing up. So it was always part of my life growing up. As I moved out and into cities and into jobs and into offices, you know, there was always that.
So you had a normal life before you went homesteading?
Well, yeah, I grew up in Tennessee. If you call that normal, you know, it was all, we were hunting and fishing in the riverbanks, and you know, and some people think that's wild because you know they live in cities and they haven't had those kinds of experiences. But as I, you know, my 20s, I was more offices and city. But I mean, I always yearned to get back on the land, and I loved camping and I loved being out on the land. And so I had a garden when I moved, you know, to Utah, and then when I went to California, that was when. Because I was living in Utah, I was living in the desert, I was driving to the feed store, it was dry, everything that I grew there was fully human. There was nothing natural about how I was gardening in Utah. And it was at that moment, and I looked at the packages that I would purchase from the store, and that was when I started urban homesteading. I had bees, I had quail, I had chickens, I had goats on a little 5th acre in the city. But I would, you know, I'd pull up my packages because I was still buying food, and I would look at my packages and I kept seeing, you know, this certain area that all my food was coming from, and I said, I've got to change my footprint, and I moved to California. And I got to California and I really got into food, and I lived in a community and they had gardens and things like that. And then my partner at the time got a job out on Oahu. And it was like, okay, we're going to Oahu. And I said, okay, I guess we're going to Oahu. And I got out there and I had no clue what was going on. And I was like, wow, I just left this agricultural life and now I'm living in the city and it's concrete and the sun's beating down. And I realized, you know, I start reading and learning and I find out that 90% of the food is imported and there's no food here. And I just am like, how did I go from Utah to, I tried to get out of that situation by moving out of the desert, but then I moved into one of the hugest most isolated food deserts on the planet right here, because so much food is imported. So I said, wow, I got my job cut out for me, and I applied for it and got into Go Farm. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, Go Farm Hawaii, and I went through that program. And when I was on Oahu, I did a lot of, I would go and help people farm, because a lot of folks there, they lease farmland and they drive to their farms and they work the land. And so I did a lot of programs over there and was really involved with the food sovereignty and farming community over there. But after I'd been there for 3 years, I was like, I got to get back to the land and the agriculture, and that's when I came over here. So it was a process. But the jump from Utah to California was the real intentional, I got to go to where the food grows, because living in the desert is not sustainable. And that's really when it clicked for me. And the best homesteading is here, but I think that that has to do with where I am, the soil I'm on, the time I've taken, the experiences I've had, the connections I've made. It's not just the year-round growing season, it's a network of so many things that you just can't really replicate anywhere. So
I think part of it too is right place, right time, right people, right reason.
yeah.
You know, so in the right reason, you know, here we have a threat of our boats stopping at some point. we have threats of hurricane season coming out, taking out our electric, our taking out our infrastructure, and so communication is a problem. You know, more communication, you cannot talk things out. Eventually, you know, food's gonna be weeding out. You have to be at a place where you can go in your yard and pick a fruit and eat the fruit or the vegetable or whatever it is that you're growing, right? I think also too, you have to have like there's some passion too. You gotta have like one passion in, like you all have your passion in what you're studying. Who knows? That might not be what you're gonna end up doing, but still, right now it's that passion. And for Julia, I think her passion is sustainability, right? Her passion is regenerative, right? Her passion is taking care of our land so that our land can take care of us. The passion is about like growing food and feeding the food, if you're following me, right? So there's so much to talk about in this area. We're going to move on to our next one in a little bit, but I'd like to hear from this side of the group. How about you, brother?
What's your favorite food that you grow out of all this stuff?
My favorite food, and I'm not even going to count exactly. I'm not going to count the staples that are daily. Right now I have abiu. It's a tropical fruit. I don't know if you've had abiu. Right now it's probably my favorite fruit that I have.
Do you have it now at the house on the trees?
I've got probably 4 left. I've
Wow.
eaten that entire. Maybe brought you a couple, but
Yeah, you did. And you brought it. I
I've
think
eaten
it was in
everything.
that dish, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How about one from one of the women? Here. Yes.
How do you handle pests? Because I assume you use like sustainable practices.
Chickens, turkeys, ducks, mostly. But I also make the safer soap you've probably heard of. That's usually like peppers, garlic, fermented. Compost tea is helpful. Labs, lactic acid bacteria. I make, spray that on.
Goats do eat it? No. Oh, they bring it. Goats.
The lactic acid?
No, the goats. They eat bugs and stuff like that.
No, they eat the plants. That
Yeah,
are
they eat the plants. They eat
But
these
the
good
bugs,
plants. Yeah.
they eat the good stuff. But the chickens, the poultry play a huge, because I've got all the slugs. The ducks come and eat all those slugs, which carry the rat lungworm. So it's a whole system up there. It's like this cycle.
Ecosystem.
Yeah, and it, if I didn't have all that poultry up there, it would be a nightmare. So
One area helps the other area
Yeah.
to survive, right? It's just a reciprocal, right?
Yeah.
You know that, and that's the whole idea of what she's doing, really, to be sustainable, and every piece has its reason and its purpose, intent and purpose. How about you, my dear? One of you.
Let me
Don't
just
look at
real
it.
quick.
You know what,
ask-
hey?
Just a second. The pest. The other thing is plant too much and plant things that the bugs like more. So that
Cross
you can,
planting.
yeah, you trick them. You
Yeah.
intercrop and things like that. Anyway.
You know what happened when you point out to somebody, the two of them look at you, right, and then they look at each other like, oh,
You're not
busted,
saying the name, that's why.
busted.
I know which one.
No, one of you, please.
I have a question. How would you recommend somebody who doesn't live in Hawaii and who maybe has a winter season and can't grow things outdoors to
Good question.
implement some of these practices?
Well, some of the things that I did when I still lived in small spaces, whereas I grew a lot of sprouts. And sprouts are growing food, and it's one of the easiest things that you can do. Small apartments, even when I lived in a camper, I grew sprouts. But it doesn't matter how small the container, you can grow something. Homesteading and sustainability come in more forms than 6 acres of jungle.
That's a great answer. Like anywhere you can grow something.
Yeah.
There's no excuse not to grow something. Hell, you can grow pot anywhere else too, right? No. Just joking.
So grow lights, that's the thing about grow lights, in indoor, the vertical gardens, and there's, on Lanai, there's, do you know about the grow outfits over there? And that's, that's a lot of energy that's being
Go
consumed.
Farm is one of the leaders in that area as far as in-house growing and stuff like that. Now
Yeah.
that they're doing that, we've been watching a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
And lastly, how about from this corner here? How about from our rancher?
I'm not as a rancher in that respect, but how worried are you about the goats eating what you are producing for yourself and for your family?
Fence.
Just the fence.
Good fence.
Okay.
Good fence.
Plus, they're good lawnmowers too.
Supervision,
Yeah.
supervision and fence, planting things. Like I have some plants that are toxic to not only goats but people too. But they make beautiful flowers with amazing aroma, and the bees love them. They're planted right at my front door. So if the goats get out, you know, they wear bells. I can hear them. I go, oh, and I just plant.
And
things
you
like
bring
that.
the bees, so the bees is
Yeah.
good, right?
Yeah.
Pretty cool. That's pretty
How do
cool.
you keep out the peak?
Again,
Chop them up.
There's a few. That's a multi-part question. I have fence, and when the fence don't work, I have livestock guardian dogs. And when livestock guardian dogs don't work, I got a crossbow.
Pretty much the only four creature animal that's gonna try and break in, and they'll eat everything.
Yeah, the pigs
They'll
will eat everything, including chickens, baby goats,
They'll eat
everything.
Okay, and last but not least, Jan, could you please engage this for us too? If a question or comment or importance or please.
So look at our time with Iopa and the guys here at Mahalos and with Julie as an opportunity to be thinking about things. We can't do the things that they do here because we have seasons or because you're still a college student or because you live in an apartment or whatever, but you can do some things. And so what's important isn't to do what somebody else is doing, it's to do what you can do.
Right.
And to have the attitude that you should do what you can do to be part of the solution that affects everybody. Everybody lives in a place where there's a shortage of something or too much of a bad thing, and what can you do? And do what you can. When you're ignorant about something, you can't be held responsible for not doing something about it. But when you know, you're now responsible to do something.
Yeah, and check this out. You only can do what you can do for when you do and you do and do. Please join me. Julie, thank you so much, Julie. Appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Almost walked in the front of it.
Right on.
It's over.
I was like, wait, whose phone is that?